Hi, I'm Nyree. I've got 2 adopted sons, and I want to tell you today how we got into a situation where I realised that they were being affected by their past situation and abuse in a way that they didn't need to be. And it's kind of a story around how we dealt with that and what it was, without going into too much detail. And I hope that you will find it very useful. So our sons are now 11 and 12, and we've had them for a long time. And so you would think by now that a lot of the things that used to distress them in the past wouldn't now. But I think the thing is that those things change over time, and the things that used to frighten them and concern them are different from what they are now. And suffice to say, their background is extremely difficult. There are lots of things in it that I would never share. They have a particular cultural background. It's specific. It has some history, cultural heritage there. And they've been made aware of that by receiving letterbox contact. So we've tried to explain what that is, what it looks like, what it feels like. We haven't been able to tap into that cultural heritage because it wouldn't be that easy to do that. Something that we can think about in the future. Now, recently in our area, there was a group of people that went by that name of that cultural heritage. As it was, they were a split off section of them, and they weren't very representative of that heritage. However, unbeknown to my mum, she had mentioned that they'd moved into the area. One of my sons kept asking questions to my mum over and over again and showed a huge amount of anxiety. And of course, my mum didn't catch on to why. And so later on, when my son came home, I sort of said to him, what is the anxiety about? It's nothing that you need to worry about. And he started talking to me in a way that kind of led me to understand where he was going with it. So I needed to really sit down and say to him, just because that was the background of those people, just because that was your heritage, doesn't mean to say that what you suffered in that house means that all people of that heritage and background would be like that. And also that these people that have moved into the area, it doesn't mean that they are also representative of that. So this was really difficult to explain to him. He is quite, his understanding sometimes can be difficult to explain things to him anyway. So I was trying to separate out for him that what happened in his home was nothing to do with their cultural heritage, and actually that these people were nothing to do with his family. And trying to explain that was really, really hard. But I think this is the thing with adopted children. You never know when they're going to get a trigger. You never know what is triggering them. And you've got to ask so many questions to get to the bottom of it. Now, he is the son that is the more anxious out of the 2, generally speaking. And then a bit later on, the other son started asking questions, and he wanted to go back up to my mum and talk to my mum about it and ask her lots of questions. And then he came home and he carried on asking lots of questions, and he just couldn't stop. He just could not stop. All of these questions just coming out, and it was just constant. And sometimes he can become very, very obsessive over certain things, small things, big things, but things that he's got in his head. I just couldn't calm him down. He wasn't angry. It was like, blah, blah. It just kept on going on and on and on. And he waited until it was quiet. And he was asking me whether where they were, was there a barrier or something? Or was, and I couldn't understand it. And then when it was quiet, he said, don't tell my brother. But he said, I'm petrified they're going to be able to come and, find me and get me. And I said, what do you mean by that? He said, because there's nothing to stop them. And I said to him, no, there's nothing to stop them, but there's no reason why they would. And again, he had linked the exact same thing without even talking to his brother, that this cultural heritage that he had meant that these people could be out to look for him. And this is so sad. After 9 years of having them, They still worry about being taken away from us, and they still make triggers and connections that are very unexpected at times. And I had to go through the whole thing with him as to why that wouldn't be the case and why this double connection wasn't there. I'm just sharing it so that you know that however old your child gets, if they're aware of their history, or even if they're not sometimes, even if they're pre-verbal and they can't explain it to you, there's going to be triggers there. And the triggers can be very real for them, very frightening for them. And I feel like with our boys that we just work through them one by one, and that the explanation that I give them is sometimes really, really basic, like those people are not your family. What happened to you in the home is nothing to do with those types of people, and that's the way we were arguing it. So I hope that helps you, especially if you've adopted already, and I look forward to seeing you on my channel. Thank you.